episode 1 of the dreaded Code of Conduct. We all feel super intimidated by this topic, and for good reason. It is a lot of information, and it is a lot of big words and confusing sentences. So, in this part of your studies, I have created different episodes to tackle the different parts of the Code of Conduct and kind of manipulate our brains into thinking that it's not that big if we just take smaller parts at a time. So let's just discuss what is a code of conduct. A code of conduct is a rule book. It is the book that tells us what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do. So that is the essence of the code of conduct. If we're wondering, oh, why is this code of conduct everywhere? It touches on advertising. It talks about giving advice. It gives us the rules about safe custody of funds and client products. Why is it so all over the place? It is because it is our rule book for the entire industry. So just a reminder, a lot of what we're going to learn in the code of conduct might not be applicable to your specific environment. A lot of what we're going to learn will be applicable to your specific environment, but you have different ways of applying it at work. I have noticed out of experience that different FSPs will have different rules, all of them compliant. Some FSPs will have more intense rules, and others will just stick to what legislation requires from them. So it is important to once again remove whatever hat you are wearing. I know I sound like a cliche and like a stuck record, but remove whatever hat you're wearing and just consume the information. And where we want to apply it and we want to see how it is applied, I'll try and give you as many examples as I can from different parts of the industry so that we can build the puzzle pieces. Right. So when we start with the code of conduct starts with the general duty, which is easy to read, but for some reason, when we start with the general duty, we think, this is just the introduction. I don't need to get into this too much. And they love asking about this general duty, and they're very tricky. The words that they change here are not the ones that we expect. Right? So it says in the Act that it is the general duty of all FSPs to render financial services honestly, fairly, with due skill, care, and diligence, and in the interest of clients and the integrity of the financial services industry. Now, you know that I've said that you're not allowed to summarize for RE5. And the reason being is when we summarize, we take out keywords. And in this exam, they don't test your knowledge on the keywords. They know you know about the keywords. They trick you with other words. So what they like to change in this sentence is they like to change this word, clients, and the and part. So instead of saying in the interest of clients, they'll say in the interest of the financial services sector. And instead of saying and, they'll say or. So in the interest of clients or in the integrity of the financial services industry, right? When they change these words, it will change the meaning of the sentence, especially if they change the and to an or. Then it means we can decide either in favor of the clients or in the integrity of the financial services industry, but it doesn't have to be both. So obviously that's not true. Right. So please don't summarize and please don't skip the sentence. Don't think it's just an introduction. It is important. It's an easy mark to get. Don't lose out on it. Okay, so remember this sentence, memorize it like you would memorize a poem or a song. It's the general duty of all FSPs to render financial services honestly, fairly, with due skill, care, and diligence in the interest of clients and the integrity of the financial services industry. Now, this is beautiful. This general duty is stunning. How do we get to it? We get to the general duty by complying with the specific duties. Still an easy part of the code of conduct because it tells you this is what you must do. So it says when the FSP or the representative gives any information to the client, all representations made, all information provided to the client must be factually correct. I always say this is an easy one, just don't lie to the client. Not that difficult, right? But everything that we tell the client and all representations made must be factually correct. Then, all representations made and all information provided to the client must be provided in plain language to avoid any uncertainty or confusion, and it must not be misleading. Then it says the information provided must be adequate and appropriate. And we also have to take into consideration what knowledge and experience the client has in financial services. Do they understand what we are telling them? Do they understand why we have identified a product need? Is the client able to benefit from the information that I'm providing them? If I'm providing them information on a vehicle insurance policy, they must have financial interest in a vehicle. If I'm providing them a product like retrenchment benefits, they must be employed. If I want to provide them with life insurances or investment plans, they must be able to afford that as well, right? So it must be the right fit for the client. Then it says our representations made and information provided to the client must be provided timeously to give the client enough time or sufficient time to make an informed decision. We are not allowed to bully the client, force the client into making a decision, saying, client, oh, if you don't say yes, no, I can't promise I'm going to give you the same premium tomorrow. Or this is only valid for the next 2 hours. Okay. So we need to provide the client enough time to make an informed decision. Then it says the information provided may be provided orally, but must be reduced to writing within 30 days. See how we had must, and now we have may. Interesting. So it doesn't say that we must provide the information orally, but it says we can. We may provide it orally, but it must be reduced to writing within 30 days, which means that this is something we need to keep record of because we must be able to prove that we actually provided the information to the client in writing within 30 days. It says our writing must be in clear and readable print size, spacing, and format. It has to include all amounts, all sums, all charges, all values, anything with a rand value. And this needs not to be repeated. When we say this needs not to be repeated, what does that mean? It means that we don't have to go through it again and again with the client. So if my client said, I do need some time to go and think about it, the client returns, we don't have to go through all the information again. Unless we saw changes in our policy wording that will affect the client, or unless the client specifically asks us, will you please repeat what you have said? Or I can't remember the claims process or the payout process or whatever. If the client does ask for the repetition, we need to repeat it. Right. The specific duties then also go into conflict of interest. Now, conflict of interest is something that I feel a lot of people misunderstand. So, conflict of interest, first of all, is not illegal. In our environment where we get incentivized and we work on commission and we have different prizes and competitions throughout the month or the year, we will always be exposed to conflict of interest. So, conflict of interest, we need to define it first, right? Conflict of interest is anything that will influence your ability to act in the client's best interest. So anything that will make you think about your own pocket before you think about the client, or anything where the FSB will think about their own pocket instead of thinking in the client's best interest. So if I tell you, person on the other side of the screen, I'm going to incentivize you. If you sell 5 of these products in the next week, I am going to send you on a trip to the Maldives. I can almost guarantee that you're going to sell those 5 products. You're going to make some kind of plan. So, to prevent you from selling all 5 of those products to the same client or selling those products to clients that cannot benefit from it, we have a conflict of interest management policy. So it says our advisors and our FSP will always be exposed to conflict of interest, but the FSP must have a conflict of interest management policy in place that will tell the client what conflict of interest exists, how the conflict of interest was avoided or how they tried to avoid it, any arrangement with a third party that could give rise to conflict of interest, what measures are in place to make sure that the conflict of interest is managed and that the client is not negatively affected by it, all of that. So the FSP must still try to mitigate or limit the conflict of interest as far as possible. But we have to have this conflict of interest management policy, and our clients need access to this conflict of interest management policy. The client also needs to know where to access this conflict of interest management policy. Let's look at an example. This is obviously a conflict of interest management policy from Outsurance. It's just a snippet of it. If you want to read the full one, you can download it either from their website, from our learning portal, wherever. So in this document, Outsurance has told their clients, yes, there is conflict of interest. So what happens is our representatives work on a performance-based remuneration system. So technically they're telling you, the better you perform, the better you will be remunerated, right? So we read earlier that in this conflict of interest management policy, the FSP must tell the client what conflict of interest exists and how it is managed and what measures are taken to avoid the conflict of interest. So now we see, this is the conflict of interest that exists. They tell us call center staff work on a performance-based structure which measures both quality and quantity of work. Then it says mandatory monthly audits are done by team managers to prevent this performance-based structure from manipulation and to ensure quality. The quality assurance department will perform various audits to ensure that staff adheres to all the procedures and provide proper advice. So they're telling us this is the conflict of interest that exists and this is how we are managing it. This is how we're making sure that our representatives are still acting in your best interest. Right. It continues. They also say that they've got another point or place where there can be conflict of interest is where they provide incentives. So they're saying that this is the conflict of interest that exists. What happens is incentive winners are announced every quarter and every 6 months based on their performance. Now, the performance-based structure records and the work performed by top performance are audited by the Quality Assurance Department once again to make sure that it's both quality and quantity taken into consideration and not just quantity. Right. After that, we see the code of conduct touching on record keeping. Now, see my little white blank space? It's there for a reason. So, we're basically going to start our discussion on record keeping here, and then we'll have a separate video that will go into the depths of record keeping. So, with record keeping, I have better handwriting in person, I promise. With record keeping, we kind of have two parts to it. We have transaction record keeping, and we have compliance record keeping. I hope that would fit, but we get there. So in this specific slide or this specific part of the video, we are going to focus on transaction record keeping. That is obviously where we keep record of transactions. Now, before we go into the content, I want you to imagine this. Let me see if I can erase a bit. You guys have that. You know that we've got two parts of record keeping. I want you to imagine this. Imagine I am a client with your organization. I don't know where you are from, but I'm a client with your organization. And I buy a policy or product from you in 2012. Right. Now, I want to claim or benefit from this product in 2025. If I have been paying a monthly premium or I have invested money in 2012, I obviously expect of you to keep record of the fact that I am your client, right? Now in 2025, I want to claim. I can claim because you have my record on file. You know exactly what product and policy I have with you. If I then have my product paid out or I submit my claim and afterwards I cancel my policy or the policy has reached its full maturity, it cannot continue after I have gotten a payout if it's an investment product. That is when the 5-year record keeping will start. Once my product is no longer active, or I am no longer alive, or I'm no longer your client. Right, the 5-year record keeping period will not start on the day that you sold me the policy. Because imagine that was true. Imagine you sold me a policy in 2012 and you only kept record for 5 years. And now I want to claim in 2025, and you're going to tell me, oh no, we stopped keeping record of your product in 2017 already. You can't claim. Hey, but you've been taking my money every month. Right, that doesn't make sense. So while the policy is active, we need to by default keep record of the product. The 5-year period will only start when this product transaction has been terminated or it has been completed. It's no longer active. That is when our 5 years will start. Right. So let's look at what the Code of Conduct says in terms of our record keeping function. It says that every FSP must have a procedure and system in place to keep record of verbal and written communication. We must be able to store and retrieve those records. Client records must be kept safe from destruction. Now, these are our go-to 3 rules. If we are given a, a record keeping function in the exam, they're giving us a scenario telling us this is ABC Financial Services and this is how they keep records. And they want you to comment on the compliance of it, whether it is compliant or not. Then those are the 3 rules that we go to. Will this FSP be able to keep record of verbal and written communication? Store and retrieve those records. keep client records safe from destruction. If we say no to any one of those three, that record keeping function is not compliant. It also says that records must be kept for a period of 5 years after the termination of the product transaction. That is where they trick you. They're not going to test whether you know about the 5 years. They know you know about the 5 years. We all know about the 5 years, right? So what they'll do is they'll test us on that part, the afterwards. So instead of saying after termination, they might use after the rendering. Instead of after termination, they might use before the termination or before the rendering, right? So this is where my little scenario comes in. Only once I am no longer your client or my product is no longer active, that is when the 5-year record keeping time period starts, right? Then it says records must be available for production within 7 days of the authority's request, 7 normal days, Monday to Sunday, public holidays included. And then our records can either be kept electronically or physically. It does not matter as long as they are safe from destruction. Now, the last part, and it's not that intense, it says in our code of conduct, our FSPs, that's the provider is not allowed to disclose any confidential information obtained from a client or a product supplier unless we have written consent to do so. So that just means we cannot share information from our clients or our product suppliers unless we are allowed to do that. And then it says a provider who provides products or services other than financial products or financial services must disclose to the client that those products or services are not regulated and the client does not have the same protection. Now, this is one of those sentences that when we read it, we think we understand what we're reading, but we just cannot apply it to real life. So let's do a quick example. We have an FSP. Our FSP is 123 Financial Services. And at 123 Financial Services, we offer the following products. We offer insurance products, we offer investment products, and then we offer a check account. Okay, so we're going to pretend that 123 Financial Services is a bank. Now, at 123 Financial Services, we do offer insurance and investment products. Those are regulated products, regulated by the FASE Act, which means that we need to be FASE compliant when it comes to those products. And when our clients are not advised correctly on these products, they can go to the FASE Ombud. But a check account, a transactional bank account, does not have an insurance component and does not have an investment component. So this guy over here is not a financial product. So what it says in the Act is when a FSP offers financial products, but this FSP also offers products that are not financial products, it must be disclosed to the client that these products, like our check account, that these products are not regulated by the FASE Act and the client does not have FASE protection for this product, which means if I sell them the wrong checking account option, they can't go to the FASE Ombud because it's not his product. It does not mean our client is not protected at all. It just means that the client is not protected by the FASE Act. In this case, the client will be protected by the Banks Act, maybe even by the Reserve Bank, something else, okay, but not FASE. Right. That is it for episode 1. Do you understand everything that you have listened to or heard? Do you understand everything that you have read? If not, go through it again or ask me. Let's just figure out. So please don't go to episode 2 if you are not completely satisfied that you understand episode 1. Right. Thank you very much. On to the next one.